Update. Am I the a-hole for leaving one of my brother's kids out of a trip, but taking the rest? Original post. So, long story short, I live and work abroad, but am from the Midwest. I grew up with my brother Jason, 43 male, and our parents who are now in their 70s. We were working class, had what we needed, but were not well off by any means. When I was in high school, Jason married Tiffany, 40 female, who is, was, and will always be a mess of a person. Heavy drinker, partier, God knows whatever else. But she was hot, and my brother is a dweeb to put it nicely. They had Jace, 19 male, Jeff, 17 male, and Hannah, 12 female. Their marriage broke down before Hannah was born. They tried working it out, but ultimately got divorced. Jason started dating Jenny, 43 female, while splitting custody of the kids with Tiffany 50-50. Since Tiff had been a stay-at-home mom, she received child support and alimony, and my brother worked a lot. I liked Jenny at first. She wasn't a complete smoke show like Tiff, but she was kind, had a good job, and was well educated. I thought she was a much better match. At first, I knew Jenny was upset that the kids didn't immediately love her and call her mom when they were there, and the divorce was hard on them. She got pregnant somewhat fast with Daisy, 10 female, and they got married. Around this time, the older kids started refusing to go back to Tiff's. She was always drinking and having guys around, so all three moved in full-time with Jason and Jenny. Tiff left town and is no longer in the kids' lives. I tried to be understanding. I'm sure having a newborn and then 3 older kids full-time is difficult. But Jenny completely changed. She stopped working but declared she was only a stay-at-home mom to her kid. Jason was working 70-plus hours to make ends meet, and her parents were helping them out. But she controls the finances. This means that the 3 of them, Jason, Jenny, and Daisy, operate as a family unit, going to dinners, events, even vacations, and leaving the older 3 kids at home. I have always thought this was disgusting and voiced my opinion about it, but Jason just said his divorce broke him emotionally, and he will do anything possible to keep Jenny happy so that their marriage works out. Gross, yes. And 10 years ago, to be frank, I was younger, broker, and dumber. So it was more like, yes, my brother freaking sucks as a dad, but I live on another continent, and all I can do is be supportive of the kids. I know, not a great attitude in retrospect, and I'm disappointed in myself. I really did my best. When they refused to pay for Jace to learn how to drive, even though Jenny refused to drive the kids anywhere, my mom taught him, and I bought him a used car. We had to shame Jason into putting him on his insurance, and he makes Jace pay for it. Same with Jeff. They share the car and use it for their activities and Hannah's. My wife, an only child and we don't want children, and I have the 3 of them as our sole beneficiaries in our will. Something we did when we found out that Jenny and Jason plan to leave them only the bare minimum amount. Everything else goes to Daisy. Also, after we got married 6 years ago, my wife and I decided that we would start taking the older kids on annual trips with us when we went to the US. Nothing fancy. We might be child-free, but we're not billionaires or anything, just well off. But things like a week in Florida, Utah, California, things like that. They're very outdoorsy kids, so they've had a blast every year. And we plan it when my brother takes Jenny and Daisy on trips, so they don't care. Normally, we vacation in the summer, but Jace got an internship this summer, so we decided to move our trip to the fall and are going to Maine. I let Jason know the dates. They're in line with their fall breaks. No worries. And he basically said we need to start including Daisy. Jenny's parents made some bad investments. They're fine but aren't helping them out anymore. And Jenny is looking for a job. Since her parents had always paid for their trips, they can't go on one this year. So, even if all was fair, I wouldn't want to take Daisy on a trip. This is going to shock you, but with parents like that, and I feel so bad saying this about a child, Daisy is a huge brat. Spoiled, mean, and constantly bragging about the things she gets that her siblings don't. She once told me they weren't her siblings, they were Tiffany's kids. She throws toddler-level tantrums on holidays if she doesn't get as much and more as the other kids, and since Jenny waits on her hand and foot, she's a total slob. I feel bad saying all this. I hope when she grows up, she grows out of it. But there is no way I'd want to take her on a vacation. So I told him I didn't think we'd be able to handle all 4 kids and we'd just go the 5 of us. He said Jenny could come to help out. Absolutely not. Or our mom could go. Love her, but she's getting a freaking hip replacement next month and does not want to go. Plus, the car we'd need for all these people on a road trip would be stupid. We'd probably need 2. And you know what? I don't want to. Anyway, sorry for trauma dumping on you all. This is getting long. I was worried Jason would not let me take the other kids on a trip, but they decided to go the route of shaming us online. Obviously, it's working with their friends and her family, but even my dad told me to stick to my guns. But my wife came to me the other day and basically said, "Are we even better than Jenny if we're favoring some kids over another just because we don't like their mom? Before we were evening things out, but now we're obviously favoring the oldest." She told me to think of the long-term health of my family and our relationships. She said that it's my family, my decision, but she wants me to think about it. My gut is saying just take the older 3, but Daisy's only 10. She's not to blame. Would it make me evil to leave her out? Now for the top comments before reading the update. On the title, it sounds bad, but that child is a nightmare. She hates on the step-siblings, hates on you, brags about her special treatment. Probably time for her to learn about the consequences of treating others like crap. Not the a-hole. They're half-siblings. Sorry if I wasn't clear on that. Don't take her, because she will ruin the one positive thing those older kids have in their life. Your family's already broken, mostly because of your brother's idiotic choices and his wife's selfishness. No, taking only 3 of 4 kids is not great, but you're already up to your neck in horrid, thanks to other people's actions. Do the older kids plan on keeping dear old dad and the evil stepmother in their lives when they become adults? How much contact would you actually have with Bro, his lazy wife, and their spawn if you weren't looking out for the older Niblings? Your parents seem to be siding with you and the older kids as well. What are their thoughts on the situation? You need to start thinking now about what you want for your family and what you're likely to actually have. Start putting your time and focus on that. Not the a-hole for choosing the older kids and not the brat. Maybe fight fire with fire and start publicly shaming Bro and company for how they've treated his kids over the last 10 years. Or at least threaten to. After Jace left for college, Jason made him give him his house key and told him he needed to stay elsewhere going forward. So, over breaks, he's been staying with my parents and has very little contact with Jason. Since that's probably what's going to happen to Jeff next year, my wife and I have talked about buying a condo to stay in when we're in town, around 2 months out of the year. Since my parents' place is so small, we normally Airbnb it, but that company sucks now LOL. And we'd pay Jace and Jeff to house sit. Jace is at college, but Jeff wants to do a trade so will likely stay in town. But I cannot ask an 18-year-old to pay rent. That's crazy. But yes, if Jace is any indication, they won't have much contact with Jason when they are adults. Once Hannah isn't living with them, my contact with Jason will be as low as possible. Just about our parents. My mom and dad are complicated. Jenny threatens that if they don't give Daisy the best attention, they can't see any of them. I don't know what that means. It's just from this insane text she sent my mom. And they do love Daisy, so they put up with them so they can see their grandkids. They have basically said Jason is a bad picker, but is a hard worker. I don't know. Now for the update. Hey everyone, I don't know why I'm updating with this, but things have gotten pretty nuts. I wasn't even going to update until after the trip, which is still a go with just the 5 of us and will stay that way, but it's just a full-on circus now. Unfortunately, my brother and Jenny have not changed one bit, and there have been multiple instances since my last post alone where they have shown their preference for Daisy over the other 3. I said before I don't do social media drama, or drama in general, but especially not in public. So I have been ignoring Jenny's little vague booking campaign, but like I said, she had family and friends supporting her on it. Except one cousin, who messaged me a few days ago and asked for a call. I reminded her, and just reminding you all before you start asking me why I don't do short trips with Daisy, that I live very far away in a different time zone, so we set up a time to FaceTime. Honestly, I kind of remember this woman, but not really. She and Jenny aren't close, but she was at some pre-baby events. It turns out Jenny and Jason have been lying to my family about their money issues. Jenny's parents, she's an only child, have not gone broke. In fact, they're doing fine. They are one of the few older people who weren't sucked into Facebook, by the way. Lucky for her, while my mom is sharing slop with me daily, but I still love her. They cut Jenny off. She's simply been lying to everyone, including my parents, and saying that her parents wish they could still help, but they can't. They told her months ago the money stream was over. Why now? So the story goes that a few years back, Jenny complained to my mom that she had a 16-year sentence with Tiffany's kids. And even the boys leaving at 18 wouldn't matter since Hannah was only a few years older than Daisy. My mom apparently said something along the lines of, anyone would be lucky to have Hannah in the house. If she's affecting your marriage so much, she can live with us. It was kind of a snarky comment from mom, but apparently Jenny held on to it like a prayer. When my oldest nephew Jace graduated from high school last year, he was told he couldn't keep living there, and they've already told my middle nephew Jeff the same. Jenny's parents very rarely see the older kids, since Jason and Jenny don't bring them when they visit, and her parents don't travel much or like coming to my hometown. So, according to the cousin, they weren't fully aware of the issues, and were under the assumption that the older three preferred spending the time that my brother, his second wife, and daughter visit them with my parents, which they respected. But apparently Jenny had been yapping to them and let it slip out how in just over a year she'd have her life back, and her stepkids would be out of the house. Her parents asked, "What about Hannah?" And she told them that my parents want to raise Hannah because they know how it's affecting her marriage. That didn't sit right with Jenny's mom, call her Pam, so she called my mom after they left. They aren't close or anything, but they talk every now and again. My mom was so confused by what she was saying. They are on a fixed income and have only a 2-bedroom place now. Of course, if they needed to, the kids could stay with them, but it's not ideal. So, and remember this is months ago, Pam thought maybe she misheard, but my mom let it slip that Jace already stays with them when he comes back from school, and Pam was confused about why he wouldn't stay at my brother's. When my mom told her they kicked him out, Pam was like, "Oh wow, that's crazy." And the conversation ended, to my mom. But apparently, this is all hearsay obviously. Pam called Jenny up and told her, "How dare you take our money at your age," while telling an 18-year-old they're an adult and to figure it out? I don't know how the call went, but it ended with Pam and her husband completely cutting Jenny and Jason off financially. Her cousin said they were sending them tens of thousands of dollars a year. And get this, they truly didn't know about the inequality. I didn't believe the cousin at first. How could they not know? She says that while her parents love her, Jenny is not close with them and had basically lied, saying that my parents, who again have never had a lot of money and are now on a fixed income, and I were spoiling the oldest three and ignoring Daisy. Even before I was taking them on trips, she'd make up vacations they were on for why they couldn't go on trips with them. Jenny told them I was paying for them to attend the private school that Daisy was attending. When Pam did some digging and found out Jace did not graduate from that private school, she cut off paying tuition for it. She was going to continue that. Apparently, she refuses to take her daughter's calls and is refusing to listen to family members defending Jenny. These family members supporting her, a few aunts and their kids, already have beef with Pam over money, and they are supporting Jenny. So, I know she had talked to my mom, but I had to ask if Pam even knows the half of it. I told the cousin a few things, and she seemed shocked, and asked if Pam could call me. I told her definitely, and the next day she did. We've spoken before obviously, but she's a pretty introverted woman, so I wasn't sure what to expect. But she just seemed exhausted. She acknowledged that Jenny was the result of her parenting failures, but said she was always a difficult child. I was like, "Girl, she's over 40. Childhood has been over." She laughed at that and apologized about everything I've had to do for my oldest Niblings. I assured her that I wanted to do things for them, but I appreciate the apology. She said she will be setting the record straight with her family members. Unfortunately for them, Jenny and Jason's little nuclear family life they've been LARPing for the last few years is over. Her parents will no longer be funding them. Jenny has gotten a job, but a decade out of the workforce really screwed her over. I feel bad for Daisy, but hopefully things will have to be more equal over there. Obviously, this isn't over, and my parents and I are going to be keeping a close eye on everything and maintaining open communication with the kids, but I can't say I feel bad for Jenny and Jason. I'm so extremely worried about Hannah's mental health. Growing up in a house where your stepmom treats you like this and your younger half-sibling is spoiled while you are so close in age is devastating for a kid. Her brothers are older and likely able to compartmentalize things, but I seriously worry about Hannah. Hannah and I are very, very close and text every single day. She is okay. She and her siblings know her dad isn't anything, and her stepmom's opinion is worth dirt. She is excited about college and her life beyond living with them, yes, and is motivated. And she is very close with her brothers. My brother has already kicked the older one out and told the middle one he has until after high school graduation. I used to tell him, you either raise your kids or you'll be raising your grandkids. And at this point, I'm pretty sure for homeboy it'll be neither, because there'll be no contact. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to stay at my fiancé's parents' house for 4 days after our wedding? I'm getting married to my fiancé at the end of December. We're going to be having 2 events. The first one in my parents' city, where most of my family is, and the second one in his parents' city, where most of his family is. After some brainstorming, the 2 of us decided on our honeymoon destination. Today, as we were meeting for lunch, my fiancé, who is handling the honeymoon logistics, told me the itinerary. I noticed that there were 4 days between the event in his parents' city and when we leave for our honeymoon. When I asked, he said, yeah, won't we be staying for a bit at my parents'? I asked why, and he said that since we won't get to see his parents and relatives that often, this was a good opportunity. I was like, why use our wedding? Something we're planning on doing once for this. Also, those 4 days were coming at the expense of possible honeymoon days. He mentioned that some of his relatives coming from other places would also be staying at his parents' house, and we might never see a lot of them again. To me, that just made it worse, to have to spend 4 days right after the wedding at his parents' house, full of his relatives, including children. I became a bit angry and said this was ridiculous, and asked him to please change the honeymoon itinerary to the day after our wedding. He reacted as if I was being ridiculous, saying he'd taken so much care in setting up the itinerary, and he seemed hurt that I was dismissing it. I said I appreciated how he'd been handling everything, but those 4 days would ruin the vibe for me, so please do this for me. He said there's still a lot of time and that the changes could be made once, but not again and again, so let's wait and see if we feel the same way later. I agreed, but said I was 100% sure my feelings wouldn't change, which he didn't appreciate. We're okay and not discussing that right now, but I wanted to know, am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Who the heck wants to spend their honeymoon at their parents' house with a bunch of relatives? That is the most unromantic situation you could possibly come up with. Absolutely ridiculous. Ask your fiancé if he is okay with not getting laid for a week after the wedding and see how he feels about it. Not the a-hole. Could you compromise by getting a hotel in town for those 4 days? You'd have some privacy and space while still getting to visit with his family. I could, and I think he might be up for it. But if I'm being very honest, I want to be on our honeymoon, not just entertaining relatives and friends of his at our hotel. Although yes, that would be better than being at his house, I guess. Oh, the people don't come to the hotel. You go to the house on your terms. The hotel is your sanctuary. That's the scenario I'm proposing. Having a steady stream of visitors just about defeats the purpose.